Hello, and thank you to Dimitri for inviting me to talk with you concerning a topic I've been interested in for nearly 30 years, starting from when I did my undergraduate degree in psychology at the Open University in the United Kingdom. I apologise for not being able to be here with you in person, but at the very last moment I've been called away on a family emergency. However, all is not lost. If you have any questions about my 20-minute talk, over the next week feel free to email me your questions and I guarantee I will reply within 24 hours. Alternatively, feel free to arrange a 10-minute Skype talk with me and I will answer your questions in person. Now, if we create a scale from -10 through 0 to +10, often psychotherapy or counselling is seen as getting people from a minus figure to 0, or even maybe a positive figure. However, coaching is seen as getting people from 0 or a positive figure to an even higher place on the scale, and probably towards excellence in their chosen sector. So I'm going to be talking about how we as coaches can master helping other people who are already good at becoming even better and expert themselves in their chosen field. And this, of course, is the profession of coaching. In this talk, I would like to draw your attention to 5 lessons. And these lessons are not so much things you can go out and do, but rather they are attitudes to mastery in coaching which derive from having a certain mental representation. So the first lesson is, there are no shortcuts. I started my coaching journey back in 1987 when I began my undergraduate degree in psychology. I worked as a postman full-time in the United Kingdom and wanted to develop my understanding of psychology because I thought it was a fascinating subject. I remember a colleague telling me, "Do you know everything you think and feel is a function of the flown interaction of just 4 sets of ions in your brain which alters the membrane potential of your neurons?" I was absolutely blown away by this fact. I also saw the potential to generate another income as well and earn a living doing something I was really interested in and loved. Coaching was not so popular or developed back in 1987, so I became qualified as a registered psychotherapist. Now, as you would have calculated by now, this was nearly 30 years ago. And Malcolm Gladwell tells us in his best-selling book Outliers that to gain mastery at something, we must spend at least 10,000 hours in practice. However, the researcher from whom Gladwell obtained that figure, Professor Anders Ericsson, tells us he got it wrong. 10,000 hours of practice is the amount which is needed to demonstrate potential to gain mastery by the age of 20. It takes another 10,000 hours of practice in order to be truly great. So the figure for mastery is closer to 20,000 hours, or roughly 10 years, in a 5-day week and an 8-hour day. So if I had engaged in coaching practice for 2 hours every day since 1987, when I started my first module in psychology, I might have a chance of being a master coach at this moment in time. So the first lesson is there are no shortcuts to becoming a master coach. You must put in the hours of practice, which brings us on to lesson 2, and that is the practice has to be of a certain kind. Now, as I look back over the last 30 years of my professional practice, I noticed that for many years I was just doing the same thing over and over again. It was as though I had got to a sufficient level to convince people that being coached by me was a good return on investment, and I was happy to just plod along. Anders Ericsson makes the point that in his 30 years of researching expert performance, this is the profile of most people. However, if we want to gain mastery at something, we are actually never ever satisfied with our current level of performance, and are always looking for ways to develop further strategies to incrementally push our performance further up. Of course, the better we become, the more difficult it is to generate those improvements. However, the key to true mastery is to never give up on the mental representation of always improving, even when the expected improvements do not appear to be immediately forthcoming. In those who truly learn to master their craft, there is a consistent belief they can always get better. But more importantly, this belief is embedded in everything they think and do. So there is an energy within mastery which others just do not have. They're always looking to improve the margins in both themselves and their clients. There is never the sense that the job is finished and they can now rest. There are always improvements to be made. And the master coach is always creating ways to make those improvements in the real world habitual. Not only in themselves, but also in all of those people who they meet. Anders Ericsson calls this type of practice deliberate practice. So engaging in deliberate practice is not to do something in a rote-like manner and just to repeat a behavioural thinking process, but rather it is to also focus and think precisely what you are doing and to engage in practice with the very specific aim of obtaining a result that you have never ever obtained before, however small this result may be. Even more importantly, this is not improvement by just reading a book or thinking about doing something. It's improvement by going out into your professional environment and doing something in a structured and planned way to obtain some development in your ability. But this is an ongoing process and is part of the psyche of mastery. Becoming a master coach in this way is a bit like building a staircase without being able to see the top of the stairs. It's only when you build the first step, you're then in a position to build the second step. And then once you've built the second step, you have a solid foundation to move further up the stairs and build a third step. Now some people, they try and build the 8th step after the second step, and they become discouraged when their strategy does not work and they fall down. It's at this stage that the would-be master needs to recognise that in order to improve, it is essential that they obtain consistent feedback on their efforts by someone who already is a master and consistently exhibits mastery in their behaviour. Without this variable in the mix, it will take even longer than 20,000 hours or 10 years to get to a state of mastery. I would go as far as to say that without such consistent feedback from someone who's already a master, it would be very difficult to ever obtain mastery yourself. So this brings us back to lesson number 1. There are no shortcuts, and you must be very patient to develop mastery in coaching. You may think that having to work so hard at this level of detail is incredibly boring, and you may not have the patience to really engage in this rather tiresome process. And this brings us onto the third lesson of mastery, and that is you must possess high levels of motivation and self-belief. Okay, there are 2 characteristics here, motivation and self-belief. However, I would like to make the suggestion they are 2 sides of the same coin. When each of us comes into the world, there are 2 things we cannot do. We cannot talk and we cannot walk. However, because most of us are put into an environment where we are encouraged to walk and talk, and in that environment we are lovingly supported and coached step by experts, we eventually find we can walk and talk. And by the age of 4 years, we're doing so, better than the simulations of the most advanced computers on the planet. Sure enough, if we assume walking and talking is the focus of attention for babies between these years, and that there are 8 hours during the day in order for this activity to unfold, we end up with around 10,000 hours, approximately 5 years. The general figure needed to show potential for excellence. However, this is a difference between being good and gaining mastery. The master will not be satisfied with good. He or she wants to be better, and they continue to practice in order to generate those small increments of habits which mean they appear to be naturally better than anybody else. Now this is important. It's not genetics which provides people with mastery. It is this commitment to deliberate practice, an acute awareness of what makes a difference in the right direction concerning the habits we develop within a certain context. And in this case, it is the context of coaching. Someone who has self-belief does not believe in themselves per se. What they believe in is their ability to learn and their ability to master a skill, and having had experience of this in their life from an early age. So self-belief is not a belief in a thing, it is an embodied belief in a process. And that process is the ability to find the appropriate environment, immerse yourself in it, and to learn from the very best concerning what the key habits are. So where do we place our attention? When we place our attention there, what do we do? When we act in this way, what results can we expect? What do we do when we do not get the results we expect? And conversely, what do we do when we do get the results we expect? The reason these people are highly motivated is they have developed an experience of what this process can do when they stick at it for a prolonged period of time. They've had experiences of heartache. They've had experiences of failure after failure after failure. However, they have also persisted, so they know what happens when they stick with the process and when they get those breakthrough moments. So at the very core of their being, a change occurs. And as if by magic, they've moved up a level. And more importantly, they're operating at that level without even trying. In NLP language, they're unconsciously competent. They have had many of these experiences. Abraham Maslow describes these experiences as peak experiences. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi describes these experiences as flow experiences. And what we know is that people who are more successful than others have more of these experiences than the general population. Going back to neuro-linguistic programming, these experiences have become anchored to their present project. And they know, they don't think they know that if they persist, if they work those long hours, if they continue to make learning fun, if they continue to keep their attention focused on the ultimate goal and make the necessary adjustments each day, they will succeed and nothing will stop them. This is the kind of self-belief which provides people with the motivation to continue, even when the general population tells them they're crazy, they're mad, they're stupid, or they're ill-informed. It's also very important to make the distinction between being a master and mastery. Being a master is something which is conferred on a practitioner by somebody else. However, true mastery is not a certificate, it's an ongoing internal process and never gets to completion. The true master always recognises there is more to learn. And this brings me on to the fourth lesson of mastery, which is contribution to the field. In contributing to the field, we do the best we can. There are always areas where we know what mastery looks like. Usain Bolt and Mo Farah for running, Bruce Lee for martial arts, Dame Margot Fonteyn for ballet, Yehudi Menuhin for the violin, Mozart for the piano, Garry Kasparov for chess. In these areas, over the years, masters have contributed to the field, so they are a standardised practice to take us through the early stages of development. These standardised practices exist because of the amount of time their particular discipline has been practised and reviewed over the years. These drills may be tiresome and they may be boring. However, a future master knows that in order to get a core skill into the muscle, they must be repeated with attention to minute improvements each time, over and over again. I will say that again just in case you missed it. With attention to minute improvements each time. So these drills should never become mindless exercises to be repeated over and over again by rote. Remember, practice does not make perfect, it makes permanent. So very often in practice you have not got it right. You are working at getting it right. On those moments when you do get it right, you experience the flow. It is as though someone else has taken over, something else has taken over and you're just simply a spectator. At present, the coaching industry is still very, very young, so we do not really have the experience of the types of standardised practice that we know will lead to mastery. We're definitely getting there as we join all the dots up. However, there are still many, many schools who claim to create a master coach in a year or two if they follow the programme. And even though this is a great start to mastery, the certificate gained at the end is certainly not evidence of mastery. At the moment, there's some academic psychology professors, for instance, and they even doubt we can evidence the benefits of coaching. Rob Reiner in 2012 says, "So does coaching work or is it dodgy?" I don't think we have a clear answer to that question yet. So at the moment, we're in a position where there are many proprietary brands claiming to develop mastery. However, we are still on the road to understanding fully what mastery in coaching looks like, and this is unlike some of the disciplines mentioned above. So we have yet to discover the drills which will get us to mastery over that 20,000 hour period of time. So in contributing to the field and helping discover what these drills may be, we do the best we can to advance the new profession of coaching. I currently enjoy academic writing. My first book, The Theory and Practice of NLP Coaching, published by Sage in 2013, is an example. This contributed in part to my PhD, which asked the tantalising research question, what is NLP? And which was completed in 2015. So this is available online for people to read. Last year I published in 2 academic journals on the topic of one-to-one work. So a part of mastery is to put back into the field what you have taken out, and to do this on a regular basis, building the knowledge and practice base so others can go after you and learn from your experiences. Given it takes 20,000 hours to obtain mastery, it is clear there are a limited number of disciplines in which we can be a master, and a lifetime is nowhere long enough. So it's important we pick areas that we are truly passionate about. There is a saying in the United Kingdom, jack of all trades and master of none. This is a person who spends 2 years doing one thing, then 2 years doing something else, and develops a pattern of picking up bits of knowledge and skill in a variety of domains, but never gains mastery in any of them. The important distinction to make here is between pretending to be passionate about something because you want to earn some money, and actually being genuinely passionate about it and demonstrating such passion in your everyday life. You must be genuinely passionate about that which you seek to master, because it is that passion which will take you through those times when other people will give up. In this way you develop your identity through mastery. With modern technology, we're fortunate enough to be able to contact old friends from a long time ago. On one occasion, a friend of mine contacted me after 20 years. He told me when he was searching and came across my profile, the thing which convinced him that it was me was that I was still active in athletic competition. He told me he remembered I was obsessed with running all those years ago, and it was that activity which defined me more than anything else. So when he saw this person on social media, and that he was a county and a regional athletics champion, it was that fact, amongst all others, which convinced him it was me. So my identity was that of a runner in this person's mind. Now, despite all this time running, it is clear I have not gained mastery in athletics. Otherwise, I would have national and international honours to my name. And I mention this to emphasise not only the identity part, but it is important that we do not devalue the term mastery by claiming it when in fact we do not have it. I took a lot of time off running to build a family. Also, when I practiced, I did not focus precisely and often enough, and went out on a run without any real planning as to how that run was going to contribute to improving my performance. Now, I'm a good athlete, and on my 62nd birthday tomorrow, I will be going out for a run. However, mastery is measurable, and there is still 2% of the athletics population who are better than me in my age group. And it is those people I need to learn from as I engage in deliberate practice over the next 20 years. Despite providing coaching services since 1987, I would still not claim to have gained mastery in coaching. However, I am passionate about developing the field so we can, as a group of service providers, consistently demonstrate excellence and accurately predict the outcomes of our coaching interventions. A part of obtaining mastery is being a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. It is about giving, about passing on what you have learned and doing it with a generous and a loving heart. And so this brings me finally to the fifth lesson in mastery, and that is humility. I practice NLP coaching. However, the skills I have developed and my understanding of how people limit themselves and how I can work with such people to help them realise their potential and find their own unique states of flow is thanks to a myriad of people who have worked a lot harder and for a lot longer than I. Noam Chomsky with transformational grammar, Fritz Perls with Gestalt therapy, Milton Erickson with clinical hypnosis, Alfred Korzybski with general semantics, Gregory Bateson and his emphasis on ecology, George Miller with cognitive psychology, Abraham Maslow, Carl Rogers and George Kelly in humanistic psychology, and the list goes on and on and on. A big part of mastery, I believe, is the humility of recognising we are just one small cog in a vast machine that will continue indefinitely through time. And that our mastery is relative. We're all evolving and we're all developing. The standard of living now, which we enjoy now in the West, is akin to the standard of living a king or a queen had 100 years ago. Improvements will continue, no doubt, at an exponential rate as we learn more and develop more. True mastery, I believe, is a recognition that we are just a part of the system and not in charge of it. Have I attained mastery in coaching? Have I attained mastery in life? I don't think so. However, I find the challenge of doing so in the future incredibly compelling, and that fills me with desire and energy. So briefly, to summarise the 5 mental representations you need to develop in order to achieve mastery are: 1. Recognise there are no shortcuts. 2. At least 20,000 hours of deliberate practice, and not simply repetition, and know that mastery is never achieved. 3. High levels of motivation and self-belief. 4. Contribute to the field regularly and be involved. Be associated with your field at the level of identity. And 5. Have the humility to recognise you build on the work of your colleagues before you and you are part of a larger whole. I've really enjoyed being with you today, and please feel free to email me on bruce@achievinglives.co.uk if you have any questions, or feel free to Skype me on Bruce Grimley if you would like a 10 minutes Skype chat. Thank you, be well and do good.